Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the MarketSite studio of Max Cabasso, managing director on Nasdaq's market intelligence desk, for an update on technical levels to watch in the Nasdaq-100 as we continue to trade range bound. And Max, it kind of feels like that's the way it's going to be for at least until we get into the thick of earnings next week. But I want to take a look at your first couple of charts here, right?
Sure.
We'll look at the Nasdaq-100, but then also what you're seeing in terms of volatility, because it feels kind of low for the action that we're seeing in the market.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely range bound. We've had this sideways move. Again, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, there's just really not much conviction. You know, upside 13,200 is kind of what we're looking at, to the downside 12,800, but we've really been kind of hovering around this 13,000 range, and it's been a similar cadence, at least the past few days, opening lower, 0.5%, and then you start to climb throughout the day, and you're kind of ending up flat, kind of where you've started. So it's been, volatility's been dampened. Again, it's really just been a sideways move until we get to start picking up, getting deep into earnings season. And again, we'll touch on in a bit, but it's been slower.
Right. Well, let's talk about flows and what you're seeing in terms of option sentiment.
Yeah, so flows have been a bit negative. You see some outflows coming, and again, it's just more of the bearish sentiment. It's not anything crazy, but it's definitely coming in. People are pulling their money out of the market. Again, lack of conviction. Sentiment, again, bearish side. You can see the skew on the option side is a bit more bearish. Again, it's not crazy, but people are willing to pay up for the protection. I don't think anybody's very worried about sharp moves to the upside. It's really the kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop to the downside. So again, money's been coming out as we trade flat. Nobody has conviction that we're going to go to the upside. They're more worried about downsides. You see the protection being put on, paying up for it, and kind of money starting to come out and, I guess, moving towards the sidelines until we get into, see some sort of catalyst.
Right. Well, I mean, we didn't have the Fed meeting this month too, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of, all right, what are they going to do in May?
Yep.
Let's talk about valuation in the Nasdaq-100.
Yeah. So again, elevated. If you strip out the COVID 2020 2021 levels, which kind of everything got thrown into the wrench got thrown into there during those periods. We're at elevated levels. And it's not so much that the prices for stock prices are that high, but earnings are starting to come in. Expectations are coming in. Of what we've seen so far, and some of the conversations I've had over the past week or two is, what are you looking at for earnings? Are you looking at the actual first quarter, or is it down the road? And it's really about the guidance, forward guidance. Everybody, I won't say everybody, a lot of companies have projected a back half of the year rebound. First half of the year is going to be slower, back half rebound, and now you're starting to see some of those expectations come in. When companies are coming out with their expectations, you're seeing them pull guidance in for the full year. Okay, maybe we're not going to see that same expectation. So you're really starting to see earnings start to come in, the expectations for, again, the back half of the year. But prices have relatively held up, so those valuations are getting a bit stretched. Again, we're kind of above those levels outside of 2021 levels. We're still elevated.
What about S&P correlation?
Lower. It's picked up again from last week, but you're starting to see potentially getting into a stock pickers market, as companies are going to be rewarded if they're able to beat and kind of execute through this, challenging macro environment. And the ones that aren't are going to get punished. For a while it was everybody's kind of moving in tandem. So volatility was high for everybody. If stocks going up, everybody's going up. And now we're seeing those correlations, drop. We're getting to those lows again. So you might be able to say, those active managers, stock pickers market, you might be able to find some opportunities to outperform.
Let's talk about Fed odds and hikes here. I don't know. I'm kind of the camp, okay, they might pause, but in terms of reversing strategy, I feel like it's a little bit early to make that call.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think it was exactly 2 weeks ago, where there was a little over 50% chance of a 25 basis point hike on the 3rd of May, and then they're expecting cuts throughout the rest of the year. Now 2 weeks later, you're seeing we're about 90% chance right now of a 25 basis point hike in May. And then it's really a pause. There's nothing over 50% until I think it's November of the end of the year, and I think it's about 70% chance of a cut in November, and about 75% of a cut in December. So again, not much conviction. Pretty well established. Everybody's expecting 25 basis points now, and then kind of sit tight and stay flat. Again, as we agreed last week, don't see the cuts coming until they start to see consistent data. Also, like we talked about, the economic data that's been coming out is very cloudy. We had jobless claims, 245,000, so it's up, but it wasn't huge. You see some of the services numbers are coming in, but there's a lot of mixed signals. So I am under the impression that it's going to be hike and kind of sit tight until that data gets a bit more clear, because right now there's nothing that's really signaling for the Fed, okay, we're going to take our foot off the gas here.
Yeah, and then we'll start talking about the debt ceiling sooner than later.
Yeah.
All right, Max, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.